I can see I'm going to have to work on muting your microphone correctly. And hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Agatha Christie They Watched. I'm Bill Peschel, and this laughing lunatic is my wife of longstanding, Teresa Peschel.
I'm feeling this way because I used this morning to get ready for the live stream. I used a vegan eyelash comb. Yes, eyelash combs can be vegan. And and I didn't know that we had sound because I didn't hear anything.
Yes, but we've done 22 of these or 21 of these.
But this is new that you put sound on, and why can't I hear this? Why can't I hear our theme music?
Well, because we can't hear ourselves because you don't have the earphones on. And I don't know if it broadcasts as well. I'm also seeing that we're not seeing the
chat. Where's the chat?
Well, there's the control panel. And yes, now we're there. So I closed all these silly docks, and now it's
turns out we needed them.
But there's the live control panel. There's the so I have to leave these on. We're learning this.
This is why I'm the talent. I could not do this if it was not for Bill. Bill makes all of this possible. He allows my genius to show, such as it is, because I could not do this by myself. Oh, and you got the chat to work. Oh, yeah. I see. There it is.
But I just had to get those docks up. This is OBS system that we're using, folks.
You know, when you make me a bigger desk and eventually I get a new monitor, I want a monitor this big.
Yeah.
Okay. This is really nice.
It is really, really nice. It's a gaming monitor that my son had put together for himself and he didn't need anymore. So this is why we're able to do this. But anyway, the point though is that we are going to be talking about Murder at the Vicarage, the 1986 Miss Marple episode starring Joan Hickson. And we're doing this even though this is not the first episode because of a
the first episode was actually of the Joan Hickson series was, I believe, The Body in the Library.
Right.
And for various reasons, including the rights, and I don't know why, because there is only one other film of Murder at the Vicarage prior to the 1986 version, and it is a German film that we have now gotten and will be able to see in a couple of weeks. I'd never have seen before.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, anonymous YouTuber whose name I can't remember. But
I know his name, but thank you.
But thank you. But for this is something that's really difficult for a layperson like me, a normal person, a normal viewer to understand. But Hollywood doesn't care anything about continuity or going in the order in which books were filmed. And so even though the Joan Hickson series was the Rosalind Hicks's test case to see how well she had already seen that various BBC TV producers were able to do the Agatha Christie Hour, and they did Why Didn't They Ask Evans, and they did the Seven Dials Mystery, and they did The Secret Adversary, and they did
Partners in
Crime. So she knew that the various English production companies could be brought to heel with proper instruction. They were properly motivated, and she motivated them. And so when it came time to do Joan Hickson, starring as Miss Marple, your first thought would be, well, of course, they're going to film them in the order in which the novels were published. Well, they didn't. And so they started with Body in the Library. I don't know why. I imagine somebody thought it was a good idea.
Well,
maybe it was contractual.
It's certainly more dramatic. It starts with a body in the first scene almost.
Yeah, and it's a great title. I mean, she was parodying all of those bodies found in libraries when Colonel Bantry goes down and discovers what the housemaid has already discovered, which is a body of obviously a tart in his library, and he's just absolutely floored. And it starts out great, and it turns into something completely different.
But I think also, though, A Murder is Announced might have been one of the early ones, because that was a 3-parter. They wanted to do everything, and they did it up right.
It could be. Let me see. Yeah, Pocket Full of Rye, A Murder's Announced. They did a fabulous job.
She's looking in our book, Agatha Christie. She's looking in there because we keep a lot of our information in there.
Yeah, it remembers for me because I can't.
But
the point is, they didn't start with the first novel. They just dove right in.
And that's what this is. This is the first novel published in 1930.
But it's not the first Joan Hickson film. And in fact, the very first Joan Hickson Agatha Christie film stars not Joan as Miss Marple, but Margaret Rutherford. And there's Margaret Rutherford.
Murder, she said.
Murder, she said. And she is she is in disguise. She is Miss Marple in disguise, and she is confronting the cook and housekeeper played by Joan Hickson. And in fact, I just remembered this, and I know you didn't get a picture. There is another Agatha Christie film with a very, very young Joan Hickson. Remember, it's going to turn up in the rotation in probably a year or so. It's Love from a Stranger, where Joan Hickson played the scatterbrained young housemaid.
This is from the 1930s or so, when she was obviously much younger.
I think it was 1937. See, this is why we have the book, because the book remembers for us.
Yeah. But yeah, she was a young scatterbrain. And there, at some point, was it Agatha or Rosamond who said, you should be playing Miss Marple?
I cannot remember who said that. I think it might have been Agatha.
It might have been Agatha herself. Actually met her after a play and said, you'd be perfect as Miss Marple. And she is. Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Let me look at the names. Yes, Joan Hickson, Love from a Stranger in 1937.
That's her at the end.
Joan. That's Joan at the end. So yes, at least 3 different Agatha Christie
We're so easily
properties.
Amused.
People who are easily amused have happier lives.
That is true. So this is Murder at the Vicarage, and there's the iconic opening and the music. Da, da, da. We can't say more because you two will block us.
And if you haven't seen these in a while, when we first saw these, and this was a couple of years ago when we started the Agatha Project, towards the end of 2020, is we had to get what we could get down at the library. And so we did. And since then, now that we're rewatching all of the Agatha Christie films for our live stream, we have discovered that, thank you, BritBox, somebody in England has remastered them all and added subtitles, and it really is like night and day. One of the difficulties I had with our old library copy of Murder at the Vicarage, all of this stuff was filmed on videotape. It does not hold up well. And it was like the director had filmed the entire damn thing in the dark. And this edition looked so much better. Oh my God, you could see everything that was going on. So if you have not seen Joan Hickson in this series in a long time, or what you remember is, you know, blurry and dull and faded and out of focus, and you want to see them again as they should be seen, get the new remastered versions. They were just there. It was just crystal.
Right, which is available on the BritBox channel, and also there's a BritBox channel on Amazon Prime. It's an extra fee. You'd have to subscribe to it, but there's a couple of them. Well, yes, there's the main BritBox channel that you could subscribe directly to, but if you have Amazon Prime, then for an extra couple of bucks a month, you can have access to BritBox.
Oh, so there are 2 ways of getting to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
And again, this is kind of a reminder, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, we are the authors of Agatha Christie She Watched. Actually, Teresa is. I did the design and layout for everything.
But you edited every one of those reviews.
Yes, I was the God.
Layout artist?
No. Boy, I am just... See, this is what happens when you get older. I wasn't she's the Fred Astaire. I'm the Ginger Rogers. I basically followed behind her and did everything backwards and in a dress.
And I'm pointing out a mistake that you made on this slide. You're going to have to fix this for next time.
What?
You're covering up our logo with international.
I'm not going to... You're really gonna do that, huh? Okay, well, let's see. We will just go ahead and nope, that's me. We will just click on that and move it up there. Now, are you satisfied?
Yes.
Okay.
That's better.
Very
that's
good.
Better.
Well, I
like
keeping you satisfied. So, let's see. Okay. But this is one of the first editions. I can't remember if it's the American or the English version, but I just love that cover. I mean, it looks like it's something
terrible cover. That is a terrible cover. You can tell that they are selling Agatha Christie's name and not Murder at the Vicarage to people who don't know who she is. And why does it look like it's decorated with rows of rickrack?
Yeah, but it's a very medieval looking font, like it's starring Errol Flynn in Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yes, but rickrack.
But this is the other one.
That was the trim, by the way. That was the jaggy trim.
Yes, I understood. I know what rickrack is.
Not everybody knows what rickrack is.
That's true. But this
anyway.
this is the other version. And of course, I wanted to throw in the Tom Adams cover because that is so amazing.
So amazing. And let me say right now that this version of Murder at the Vicarage is fairly faithful to the text. And yet they managed to completely omit a lot of things. They have omitted 2 major subplots, and one of them involved the vicar and his Griselda's nephew who lives with them, who is a tennis player and who plays tennis with lettuce Protheroe. They're the only the assumption, of course, is that they're both young and attractive and about 16 years old. And there isn't anybody else in the village who is young and attractive and about 16-year-olds and of the correct social status. And so that's why you get the tennis racket.
Mm-hmm.
And it forms part of the plot because there is a suspicion that Dennis may have been involved or Lettuce may have been involved in the murder. And were they really playing tennis? And that's why you get the tennis racket. And that one took a while for me to realize.
And for self-publishers out there looking for covers and having to deal with covers, Tom Adams talks about the process in which he read the book. He reads the book like read. He's still alive, isn't he?
I think he might be, but he's got to be pushing 90 by now.
But he reads the book 3 times. He takes notes, and what he's looking for is not an accurate depiction of any action in the book. He's looking for the symbols, the icons, the objects that he can use and he can combine into making something like this. So it has a very kind of surrealistic touch. It's certainly iconic in that you look at these and you could say that's a Tom Adams,
and it grabs your attention on a book rack. It is really amazing for that. He did amazing covers, and there's one small documentary. It didn't end up in international because we didn't find out about it in time, but there is a small Tom Adams documentary, or a documentary that includes an excerpt with Tom Adams, and he talks a little bit about his process. And there are several books devoted to his covers, and they are worth looking at because you will they're very collectible now. The paperbacks with Tom Adams covers are very collectible.
Mm-hmm.
And he does an amazing job, and he gives you the creepiness in there. You know, who is that woman? The lurking suspicion, the vicar, the tennis racket, what looks like a face behind the tennis racket, the notes that are they real or are they forged?
Mm-hmm. Now let's go into the origin of Miss Marple briefly, because like I said, Agatha wrote, but it's really kind of interesting. Agatha wrote this in 1930, after basically 10 years after Styles. She introduced this secondary detective character, Miss Marple.
Yeah, in the late 1927, 28, 30, she started writing Miss Marple short stories.
That's right. And what was the title of the collection?
The Tuesday Club Murders. The first, you could call her a proto Miss Marple, is Caroline Shepherd in The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, a tribute to all of those maiden aunts sitting there in the corner who know perfectly well what is going on, and because they are basically largely ignored, they are able to watch, observe, and think about what they are seeing and interpret it correctly. And that is what Caroline Shepherd does. And she becomes almost like a proto Miss Marple, and then you get Miss Marple. And she starts developing, and she changes from almost like a high Victorian lady to someone more no nonsense, less fluttery. But she's always a little bit vague and scatty. But that vagueness and scattiness, some of it is, yes, she is having a little trouble putting her thoughts together, and some of it is an act designed to make sure that she is underestimated by various people. And this is who she is kind of based on, and this is one of Agatha's, and you have the tag down as Auntie Grammy.
Yeah, basically how she refers to her.
You know, an older lady in the family. Agatha would visit Auntie Grammy on a regular basis. She paid a lot of attention to what Auntie Grammy had to say.
That's right. She visited one of the London suburbs regularly where they gathered.
Yes.
And she was brought up around female servants, male servants as well. And of course, she was very close to her mother. So she had a lot of role models to draw from. And these older Victorian women, she said, they were tough as flint. And if you read, especially if you read like Flashman, there's one called, it's set in Afghanistan, in which they get trapped by Afghanistan raiders and the British Army are driven out of Afghanistan. And the women there are, it's just like, we're going, all right, take, grab the kids, grab their shield and not complain and get to work. They really are inspirational. Ladies, and Agatha drew on that for Miss Marple, and you can actually see a little bit of this in their gossiping. And let me see here. That's right. They're just all the ladies are chattering. They're just beehiving and all
what they're
that.
talking about is Colonel Protheroe's wife, Anne Protheroe, having the torrid affair with the Loesch artist Lawrence Redding, or is it Lettuce? And they're all convinced that it is Lettuce Protheroe, whom he is painting nearly naked. She is wearing a
bathing
suit.
costume.
She is wearing a bathing costume, and in 1955, which is when all of this stuff is set, she's going to be pretty covered up. Think Esther Williams. She will be as covered up as Esther Williams, but probably not as stylish.
Yes.
And yes.
And they ask her, and she's just sitting there quietly and says, "No, not quite another person, I would think.
Not Lettuce.
She already knows." And that is a theme throughout this. She is always a step ahead of everybody. And they mentioned something about Mr. Protheroe, and she actually comes up as, I think of him as being a rather stupid man. And that's actually a pretty sharp pointed observation in a society that relies on tone and undertone and other underplaying. You know how the Brits are.
Yeah. And one of the drawbacks with there's a lot to like about this adaptation of Murder at the Vicarage. There's a lot to like about it. Joan Hickson is simply wonderful as always. But this is where casting matters so much. And I'm thinking a lot about casting because I just did a program at the Hershey Library about books to movies. And casting matters enormously. Joan Hickson is virtually perfect as Miss Hickson, or Joan Hickson is perfect as Miss Marple. But then you look at, I don't have a problem with the actress playing Mrs. Anne Protheroe. That's Joan. Let's find Anne Protheroe.
Mm-hmm.
And but she comes across as very repressed. And then you give Lawrence Redding, who is the Loesch artist who is painting Gatiss, and
Loesch artist in a nice button-down
nice button-down shirt and a sweater vest, because by God, he's cold and he has to stay warm. And it is obviously April. It is obviously early April in the scenes that they filmed based on the daffodils and the lack of leaves on the trees. You can tell it has to be late March to early April. Nothing has leafed out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they there's no chemistry. There is zero chemistry between Anne Protheroe and Lawrence Redding, and you can't believe that they are madly, passionately in love with each other. And that is supposed to be Lettuce on the...
No, that's Anne.
No, that's Anne. You're right. That's Anne.
We don't get to see Lettuce
in
either posing or the painting. And yes,
but this is we do in the ITV's version because
yes.
They aren't going to miss a chance at nudity.
Absolutely. Well, tune in next time. It wasn't nudity, but it was... You saw things, but we'll talk about that later. But yes, you can see the passion dripping off the screen here.
And they just weren't. And you cannot understand why she is conducting a torrid affair with this artist. There just isn't any reason for this. I mean, I understand that she is very unhappy with Lucius Protheroe. She married in haste and is repenting at leisure.
Yes, that is the Colonel. And
Mrs. Lestrange, Protheroe's first wife, actually...
Which is something that shows up in the middle. Again, we're going to be spoiling this, but yes, there's Mrs.
galore.
Lestrange, who shows up as a stranger in the village. We should kind of set the dynamics here. Yeah. Because, of course, we have Lucius Protheroe. He's the Colonel, and this is one of those Christie staples, the Colonel who served overseas or served in the war, and now he's the local magistrate, I think, now, which actually means he is the judge overlooking small crimes. There's certain levels at which, like for poaching, and we do have a poacher in this cast who's I'm not quite there. He is, whose name I keep forgetting.
Bill Archer.
Yes, Bill Archer. He's the local poacher,
and he carries on with Mary the maid, who is the vicar's maid.
And actually,
and I don't know if you got a picture of the vicar's
actually,
maid.
I forgot about her.
And again, Mary is a minor character in the novel, and for some mysterious reason, again, this is the script. This is the script writer's choice. This was the director's choice, who didn't say, well, wait a minute, what about fill in the blank? They really emphasized Mary and her poacher lover's story, and you think, why? It had no other than Bill Archer, the poacher, tripping over a wire, forcing the police to go out there and search the woods and then find all of these nails and wires and things like that. It serves no purpose. And there is a scene where the vicar is giving this amazing sermon that really affects his thieving curate to the point that he has decided, I have to confess, that I've been dipping into the church till. And you're seeing Bill Archer, the poacher, sneak around the building because Mary has hidden a picnic basket of goodies for him between two of the flying buttresses. And who cares? I didn't care.
Well,
I should have been seeing Lawrence Protheroe and Anne Protheroe, something that says, oh my God, I love you, I love you, I love you. Or I should have seen the entire other subplot that vanished was the archaeologist or anthropologist, or the historian, we'll call him the historian, who was supposedly researching the background of Lucius Protheroe's grand house, and he's secretly stealing all of the top-notch silver and replacing it with cheap-ass replacements, cheap-ass silver plate copies. And that and that becomes a really nifty red herring. That completely goes away. We lose the vicar's and Griselda's tennis-playing nephew, who's out there with lettuce all the time. All of that goes away so that you can see Mary the maid making goo-goo eyes at the poacher, who is apparently not going to marry her,
and serving bad food to the Reverend and his wife, which is it's amusing, but
it is amusing, but it has nothing
they keep
to do
doing
with
that. They keep going back.
Plot.
Yeah, and so what we have here is we have the painter who is in the backyard of the vicarage. The vicar gave him a shed to work in while he's painting Mrs. Protheroe and lettuce.
The old summer house.
And it's also right next door to where Miss Marple is, which allows her to be spying on them, because that's the wife.
Anne Protheroe.
Anne Protheroe. The vicarage is somewhere to the left, so she has a great view for everything, which sets up a trope called the unimpeachable witness, because Miss Marple is there in the backyard gardening, and she can offer a timetable alibi to where everybody was during and after the murder.
And Lawrence Redding and Anne Protheroe recognize that whatever they do, they are going to be seen by Miss Marple. Miss Marple also happens to enjoy bird watching, and that shows up occasionally in the novels, because when you've got those binoculars and you see that rose-breasted grosbeak, well, you need to whip out those binoculars and take a better look at that rose-breasted grosbeak, or the a chaffinch,
Yep.
or a green vireo, or that wonderful glorious moment when the indigo bunting flutters down to the bird feeder and you see a bird that is blue all over.
It's really quite startling.
They really are very remarkable birds.
So,
but anyway,
the show starts out with Lucius Protheroe basically throwing his weight around. He has numerous suspects who are very interested in seeing him removed. They dislike him for various reasons. He's investigating the church finances because a pound note was missing.
And this is the equivalent of, like, if my mother, when she goes to St. Paul's, so if my mother on the anniversary of my father's death wrote a check for $100, and you have to assume that a pound note in 1955 would be the equivalent. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
And a single pound note, think of it as like a $100 bill. If there is that $100 bill not on the list of the tithes that were taken in the collection basket, and I actually used to count the money when we lived in South Carolina. I helped count the money every Sunday. And you know exactly what was brought in. And if somebody says, hey, I put in a check for $70, well, where is that check? Where is that 1 pound note? And notes, money is, unlike checks, a $50 bill is fungible. And If it
But
slips into
well,
somebody's pocket, well, who would know? Except the lady who put it in.
yeah, and pound notes in general were not that much used in circulation. So if you have a pound note, an actual note as opposed to coins, well, it would go missing, and it went missing. And Colonel Protheroe says he's going to go over to the vicarage house the next day and look at the accounts. He's in charge of the church finances anyway, so he has the perfect right to. And the good reverend is kind of
Nonplussed because he
nonplussed.
simply and this is interesting because he simply can't accept that money went missing. And I can't remember now in the novel if anything was made of this. I can't even remember if this is right out of the novel, but I suspect that it was, because why else is Colonel Protheroe getting himself worked up about the church finances? And as the treasurer, it is his right and his duty to pay attention to this. And Colonel Protheroe, unpleasant man that he is correct. There was fiscal malfeasance because of the curate.
Right, and Colonel Protheroe is also on the outs with Lettuce. Was his
His,
daughter or stepdaughter?
Lettuce is his daughter.
His daughter.
Lettuce
Okay,
is his daughter,
and his second wife.
who is, yes, miserably unhappy.
Miserably
in the marriage.
unhappy, and he's unhappy that Lettuce is posing for this painter. And there's the women of the village saying she's basically a tart for posing in her bathing costume for the painter. But this is the way. This is small English villages.
Yes, these are small towns.
And in a way, what's fascinating about this is just how the Reverend refuses. He doesn't want to think about the possibility of somebody stealing.
Does not want to think about that somebody is stealing from the church. And yet this is one of the things that you have to be aware of. We were much more active in the church when we lived in South Carolina.
And we were in a small town in the Episcopal Church in York, South Carolina, population 6,000. Was that it? I can't remember now what it was.
Maybe it was pretty small.
It was a factory town. There was an actually Springs factory there that closed down.
No, Fruit of the Loom.
Fruit of the Loom.
Springs was over in
Fort Mill.
Right. But we had a Fruit of the Loom, and I remember quite clearly I helped count the money. You had to have two people counting the money, because if you pay any attention to news stories over the decades, what you will see over and over and over is the sole treasurer or the sole person in charge of counting the money. And I don't care if you're talking about the Girl Scouts or the Ladies Auxiliary for the Fire Department or the PTA or any group. It does not matter, large or small. Somebody is going to steal somebody's going to dip their fingers in the till, and money will disappear unless you have two people counting it. And you cannot have one person solely responsible for the check. And Reverend Clement is very unworldly. He is naive and gullible to not understand this. But he doesn't want to even admit that this possibility is happening.
Yeah, but that's the point I wanted to make, is that he is so unworldly because he lives in a very small English village. And this is a theme Miss Marple returns to again and again, is that at the time, and I'm contrasting that because remember Father Lowry, and he talked about he would have people knocking on the door of the church, coming to see him. They're poor, they're unemployed, they need money. And did he ever give him money?
No. He said every minister learns very quickly you never hand out cash. You hand out vouchers for rent. You hand out gift cards for the supermarket. You hand out vouchers for the electric company. You never give cash, because the minute you do, it's going to turn into alcohol and mud flaps for the truck.
Yep.
That's just what.
That's just the way it is. And so you have Father Lowry in a small town in South Carolina learning this, and our good vicar,
yes, Father Clement,
hasn't learned that lesson.
Learned
and
this
that's an amazing difference. And this is where Christie is very subtle. They talk about, these are all stock characters that are all the same, but they're really not. If you look at what they do, she just doesn't flag it out and says, he's so unworldly. He's certainly worldly enough to marry a hot young redhead as well. So he's not entirely
in love with her. Yes, his animal instincts just overcame him. And it is in the book. It's just, he met Griselda, and she said, apparently like within 48 hours, she said, we should get married. And he said, sure. Mm-hmm. Just like that, because he just couldn't stop himself.
Look at that.
He couldn't stop himself. And he's 20 years older, and every of the gossiping old biddies in the village, they all recognize this. And in fact, in later St. Mary Mead novels, most of these gossipy old ladies who play a fairly important role here. Mrs. Price Ridley, let me see my list. Here we go. But yes, Mrs. Price Ridley, who has the missing pound, Miss Hartnell, who saw this, Mrs. Salisbury, who is also the curate's landlady, Miss Weatherby, who, and I think all four of them actually show up at that tea party scene
Mm-hmm.
with Griselda. They're active in the village. They are old ladies, widows or never married, widows or spinsters, and they have time on their hands and they involve themselves with everyone else's lives, whether those other people like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all kind of largely went away in later novels set in St. Mary Mead.
Well, and there's some that were, otherwise, because A Murder is Announced is not in St. Mary Mead. I think.
Oh yeah, most of the crimes that Miss Marple solved were not actually solved in St. Mary Mead, and Agatha had to work hard at, even though it wasn't called that at the time, to avoid the Cabot Cove syndrome, where
I don't think she really worried about that
murder rate anywhere in the world.
And that's part of the what I find interesting about Agatha. She basically wrote whatever. She didn't think in terms like Conan Doyle did. I mean, Conan Doyle had the perfect villain in Moriarty, and he's mentioned once and appears in one story, and that's it. He didn't build this arc. He didn't write a big novel about him. And you could say, well, their commercial instincts aren't sound, but at the same time, they're still success. It was a different time, and they're still successes. Yeah. They're still successes. Excuse me.
And it was just, I think overall it's a pretty decent film. It's certainly not one of the best of the Joan Hicksons.
Part of it is that it dragged. It's an hour and a half.
And it dragged, and you spend way too much time with Mary the maid and her poacher lover, and not nearly enough time with any of the more interesting subplots, and not nearly enough time with trying to understand why, because it's discovered early on. See, this is the other thing. The vicar discovers early on that Anne Protheroe, and you had a picture of it, I think, that Anne Protheroe and Lawrence Reading, the vicar early on caught them embracing wildly in his summer house when Reading is supposed to be painting a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And there is like zero chemistry between the two of them. There is absolutely none. I will say, though, that watching Murder at the Vicarage, it was a reminder that when this series was filmed in the late 80s and into like 1992 or so, they made a point of choosing actors and actresses who could act and who looked like real people. One of the drawbacks, and I'll bring this up next week when we get to Murder at the Vicarage with ITV, is not only does everything look scrubbed to within an inch of its life to the point where the grass has not been freshly mowed, it has been freshly vacuumed, but everybody looks gorgeous. They don't look like real people anymore. Every single person you see here, whether they are a main character or whether they are some minor character, they look like real people.
Mm-hmm. And I only bring this up just to show you, first of all, like you say, there's the daffodils around here. I'm pointing at nothing, but you can't see what I'm doing, but there's the daffodils. It's early spring, and it has that rough, rustic look. Like they didn't dress any of these sets. This is actually, let's see where this was
where
filmed
was this
at.
Filmed?
That is Nether Wallop in Hampshire.
Nether Wallop in Hampshire. Okay.
Oh, now I bet you can. And right now you can go to Google Earth and go down to Nether Wallop, walk the streets, and you'll find those. I actually did this with some of the other ones. It's actually kind of amazing to see. Oh my God, they filmed that.
It
there.
really exists.
It really
exists.
We're Americans, we're so parochial.
Oh yes, the dear daughter and I were talking about the oldest building in Hershey and arguing whether it was 100 years old or 95 because hey, that doesn't get anything. There was this was a wide spot in the road when Milton Hershey showed up in Hershey.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we were in London and we're looking at Lincoln Inn and going, that's Tudor architecture older than this country. So,
but anyway, so it's. I would say that this one is probably middle of the road in terms of quality for the Joan Hickson series. It's certainly watchable, especially if you get the new remastered one. And it's fairly close to the novel, except, the other big thing that they did, and this was just, I hate it when they do this kind of rewriting. Anne Protheroe does not face justice. She
Oh, right.
escapes. She commits suicide, which she did not do in the novel. She did not do it in the novel. Oh, it was, I couldn't bear what was going on.
What was going to happen
I can't
next?
bear what I've done. I shot my husband in cold blood. She knew what she was doing. And it weakens her character.
Mm-hmm.
It weakens her character. You know, she's already been conducting a torrid affair with the artist. And the and this is also, this wasn't really brought out, and one of the things that I really appreciate with Agatha Christie is she always thinks about money.
Mm-hmm.
Money matters. And so over and over and over, you have a set of characters like Anne Protheroe and Lawrence Redding. And Anne Protheroe, remember, this is supposedly set in 1955, the film, although the novel was published in 1930. But even in 1930, you could get a divorce if you really wanted one. And Anne Protheroe could have gotten a divorce and married Lawrence Redding. But they didn't want to be poor. And if she was a merry, innocent widow, however tainted she might have been, you take your millions and you move someplace else. Or, again, because it was a different world, she could have packed all her jewelry, all of the money she could lay her hands on, and gone off with Lawrence Redding and gone to Portsmouth and bought a steamship ticket for Argentina, and they could have just left, and he could have been an artist in Argentina, and they would have sold her jewelry until they established themselves. But neither of them, they didn't want to be poor.
Mm-hmm. So
they had choices, but they didn't want to do
so them. Anyway, there are long stretches in which nothing happens.
Nothing much happens.
It's somewhat. There are times when it was still engaging, especially when we have Inspector Slack meeting Miss Marple, and he's at the murder scene, and she comes up behind him, and that's his look because he met her before on a previous case, and the byplay between the two of them are really very nice because he has to be polite to her, and at the same time he respects her intelligence.
Even though he resents her intelligence, he resents her nosy old ladiness. He resents how she always is like 2 steps ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers him very much, and but he has to cope with it, and he has to be polite to everyone. So, and there were things that I just didn't like about it, but overall, there are many worse Agatha Christie films than this.
Okay, and but how did you rate it? So let's go to that.
Fidelity to text is 2.5 handguns, and quality of movie was 2.5 handguns. And having now watched this, I think this is our 3rd viewing, I wouldn't change it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't change it because I really didn't like how they handled Anne Protheroe at the end, and that added attempted murder at the end was absurd, even though they did not kill the cat. Which is important.
No cats were harmed in this one. Don't worry about it.
And wait, boy howdy, wait till we see some of those Les Petites where they do not scruple to harm kitty carnage galore.
We'll warn you for it, folks.
Yes,
don't worry.
We will warn you
fear.
About kitty carnage and horse carnage and dog carnage. We will warn you about all of that. Wait till we get to Elephants Can Remember and the Thai version, dog and pet mouse murder. It's like, gee.
Wow. But this is all we got now. So what are we going to do next week?
Okay, next week we are going to watch the ITV version of Murder at the Vicarage, and it is, unusually for ITV, dare I say it, I remember it being much livelier and more engaging than the Joan Hickson version, even though they play just as fast and loose with the text.
Yep.
But it moves along smartly, and you may expect more nudity too, because ITV,
hints of nudity, it wasn't actual nudity.
I can't remember now, but yes, it'll be hints of nudity, but where Joan Hickson's Miss Marple will always be discreet and tasteful, you can count on ITV not being discreet and tasteful.
But it was lively. It had Ian McKellen, I believe. He played Colonel Protheroe. No, not Ian McKellen. No. It's the guy who played Claudius.
Yes, and Brother Cadfael.
He's in there, so top-notch actor, and Jane Asher was the one you saw in the picture, and I know her more for being Paul McCartney's major girlfriend in the 1960s.
She was a major costumer. That's what matters.
Well,
she did costumes.
To you,
I have a beautiful book of her costumes.
Really?
Oh yes, I have a wonderful costume book, how to make costumes for kids and adults.
Oh right, I remember that now. Yeah, you showed me that.
Oh, it's a wonderful costume book.
Yeah. She's a woman of many talents, including acting.
Yes, a woman of many, many talents. Derek Jacobi.
That's it.
And then after we do ITV, we're going to do the Les Petits version, the Protheroe affair.
And
if you thought there was adultery in Murder at the Vicarage, wait till you see Les Petits. And then, thank you. I'm going to
have to remember his name so I can give him a shout out.
We're going to be seeing... yes, Derek Jacobi. Derek Jacobi is the one in
which show are you talking about? Murder at the Vicarage, or
Brother Cadfael?
Brother Cadfael.
Yeah, he's done a lot.
Yeah, and Ellis Peters. See, I see all the things I remember, and then the things I forget.
And then
I read those books.
A couple weeks from now, we're going to be watching the German Murder at the Vicarage. We have never seen this. It is going to be completely new to us. We have no idea what to expect, except it will probably be more faithful than Les Petits. I can make that prediction now.
And we'll see. Yeah, you're definitely right about what was I thinking.
What were you thinking?
Anybody
is more faithful to the text than Les Petits.
Yeah. All right.
But I think that's everything. So thanks so much for joining us. And remember,
it's really a pleasure.
If you like what you see, please share us with other people to let them know that we exist. Subscribe. We're on Instagram if you want to follow us there. And thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next week with ITV's Murder at the Vicarage.
Absolutely.
And I'm Teresa Peschel.
And I'm Bill Peschel. Your husband, your loving husband.
Oh yes, the man who makes me look so good on camera. And thanks again.
Thank you so much for showing up. And don't forget, we are still alive, so let's